I think to some people who only know him through his writing and his preaching, he can become sometimes a sort of disembodied idea machine. And I just want to say a few things to show that to me he's very real. I think I've seen a side of him that most people don't see. In fact, I'd venture to say that you don't really know a guy until he's sat next to you at the breakfast table dripping with sweat, because breakfast time is always right after the morning jog. And he would rather eat than take an immediate shower. I know him as the man who would flip us in the air when we were babies, and he did this to my brother one time in front of church. I don't know if he was making an analogy or not. And he'd swing us around on broomsticks when we were a little older. I let go one time to see how far I would fly, and I broke my wrist. I know him as the man who didn't take me to the doctor for 4 days because he and my mom said it was probably just sprained. I know him as the man who would take us to one pro baseball game a year and bring a book too. But it wasn't sports that bored him, just baseball. I know him as the man who in his 60s played pickup soccer with us in a park's empty wading pool and fought harder to win than any of us who are half his age. I know him as the man who was disappointed with me when he caught me listening to rock and roll in secret when I was 9. It was Christian, but I don't think that mattered to him. I'm not sure if I have history just right, but I think in the 80s, drums were still of the devil. I know my dad is the man who taught me when I was little what the word grace means by saying that I deserved a spanking, but he wasn't going to give me one. This was an especially memorable lesson because it happened once. He also had plenty to teach about justice. I came home from school one time with a detention in the 6th grade, and the teacher had scrawled on it as the reason, kicked another student. I was surprised and pleased at how dismissively he was signing it when he asked, "By the way, who'd you kick?" I answered, "Anna." His pen stopped, and his eyes flared red, and his nostrils began to smoke, and he said, "You kicked a girl." Some things grow in memory, like a fish that you caught a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure that my recollection of that moment and the punishment that followed is not exaggerated at all. I know John Piper is the man who's going to send me to a middle school that required you to know Latin, so I had to take summer school to catch up, and I was not happy with him. To my great relief, I overheard one of the teachers say that algebra is algebra, and it doesn't matter whether you teach it to the glory of God or not. I passed this juicy tidbit on to my dad and was very pleased shortly thereafter when my time at that institution was cut short. I won't say I don't know how to push his buttons. I know John Piper as the man who sat next to me in understanding silence when I was 19 and having girl troubles. At times like these, I'm sure he would have preferred to tell me to get it together and stop being a screw-up, but he never has. I know him as the man who sat with me at Devani's Pizza while I told him I wasn't really into the kind of girl I should probably marry, and anyone who would marry me I probably shouldn't. And his prophetic response was, "Perhaps. But what about Molly?" I know him as the kind of man who did not seem at all upset when I proposed to Molly 5 months sooner than he told me I ought to. And I know him as the man who threw up his hands with a happy shout when Molly and I announced our surprise of a pregnancy 5 months after we were married. And I know him as the man who was the first person I wanted and needed to call when we went into the hospital with our next baby and discovered that she didn't have a heartbeat anymore. John Piper's a great man, not because he has a big church or lots of people read his books or know who he is. It's good he's a pastor, good he's a scholar, good he's an author, but it's best, for me at least, that he's a father, that he's my dad. I admire him, and I'm eager now to listen to him come and admire his own father.
Thank you.